Section 5 begins on page 28. This section is all about sports. And sometimes when I read, I like to imagine a face of somebody so that I can put them in the place of the character in the story. Now, first and foremost, there's no characters in this story. These are all actual people. So yeah, there's that. But when I'm thinking about this, I always think of Mr. Heiser, because Mr. Heiser is a football coach. And in this section, we learn about what the football coach at the high school in East St. Louis does for their students, and how the students respond to their coach. All right, so let's get ready. The problems of the streets in urban areas, as teachers often note, frequently spill over into public schools. I've never seen this happen, and I'm totally lying. I totally see it all the time. Okay. Martin Luther King Jr. High School, notes the Post-Dispatch, is a story published in the early spring of 1989, was evacuated Friday afternoon after sewage flowed into the kitchen. The kitchen was closed and students were sent home. On Monday, the paper continues, East St. Louis Senior High was awash in sewage for the second time this year. This school had to be shut down because of fumes and backed up toilets. Sewage flowed into the basement, through the floor, then up into the kitchen and the students' bathrooms. The backup, we read, occurred in the food preparation area. School is resumed the following morning at the high school, but a few days later, the overflow recurs. This time, the entire system is affected since the meals distributed to every student in the city are prepared in the two schools that have been flooded. School is called off for all 16,500 students in the district. The school backup caused the failure of 2 pumping stations, forces officials at the high school to shut down the furnaces. At Martin Luther King, the parking lot and gym were also flooded. It's a disaster, says a legislator. The streets are underwater. Gaseous fumes are being emitted from the pipes under the schools, she says, making people ill. In the same week, the schools announced the layoff of 280 teachers, 166 cooks and cafeteria workers, 25 teacher aides, 16 custodians, and 18 painters, electricians, engineers, and plumbers. So all the people that make a school run, they're laying off. They're saying, you gotta go find another job. We can't keep you here. We can't afford it. The president of the teacher union says the cuts, which will bring the size of the kindergarten and primary classes up to 30 students, and the size of 4th to 12th grade classes up to 35, will have an unimaginable impact on the students. If you have a high school teacher with 5 classes each day and between 150 and 175 students, it's going to have a devastating effect. Guess what? That's me. That's all the teachers here. All of the teachers here. It's crazy. You've lived it. You know it. This is your section, right? The school system, as it is also noted, has been using more than 70 permanent substitute teachers who are paid only $10,000 yearly as a way of saving money. Governor Thompson, however, tells the press that he will not pour money into East St. Louis to solve long-term problems. East St. Louis residents, he said, must help themselves. There is money in the community, the governor insists. It's just not being spent for what it should be spent for. The governor, while acknowledging that East St. Louis faces economic problems, nonetheless refers dismissively to those who live in East St. Louis. What in the community, he asks, is being done right? He takes the opportunity of a visit to the area to announce a fiscal grant for sewer improvement to a relatively wealthy town nearby. All right, paragraph 8, and we're on page 30, by the way. In East St. Louis, meanwhile, teachers are running out of chalk and paper and their paychecks are arriving 2 weeks late. The city warns its teachers to expect a cut of half their pay until the fiscal crisis has been eased. The threatened teacher layoffs are mandated by the Illinois Board of Education, which, because of the city's fiscal crisis, has been given supervisory control of the school budget. 2 weeks later, the state superintendent partially relents. In a tone very different from the governor, he notes that East St. Louis does not have the means to solve its education problems on its own. There is no natural way, he says, he says that East St. Louis can bring itself out of this situation. Several cuts will be required. In any case, 1/4 of the system's teachers, 75 teacher aides, and several dozen others will be given notice, but the state board notes sports and music programs will not be affected. East St. Louis, says the chairman, is the state board of East, paragraph 10, page 31. Let's start over. East St. Louis, says the chairman of the state board, is simply the worst possible place I can imagine to have a child brought up. The community is in desperate circumstances. Sports and music, he observes, are for many children here the only avenues of success. Sadly enough, no matter how it ratifies the stereotype, this is the truth. There is a poignant aspect to the fact that even with the class size soaring and 1/4 of the system's teachers being given their dismissal, the State Board of Education demonstrates its genuine but skewed compassion by attempting to leave sports and music untouched by the overall austerity. Even sports facilities, however, are degrading by comparison with those found and expected at most high schools of America. The football field in East St. Louis High is missing almost everything, including goalposts. There are a couple of metal pipes, no crossbar, just the pipes. Bob Shannon, the football coach, who has to use his personal funds to purchase footballs, has had to cut and rake the football field himself, has dreams of having goalposts someday. He'd also like to let his students have new uniforms. The ones they wear are 9 years old and are held together somehow by a patchwork of repairs. Keeping them clean is a problem too. The school cannot afford a washing machine, and the uniforms are carted to a corner laundromat with $15 worth of quarters. Other football teams that come to play, according to the coach, are shocked to see the field and locker rooms. They want to play without a halftime break and get away. The coach reports that he's been missing paychecks. But he's trying nonetheless to raise some money to help out a member of the team whose mother just died of cancer. The days of the tight money have arrived, he says. It don't look like Moses will be coming to this school. Page 32, paragraph 14. He tells me he has been in East St. Louis for 19 years, and he's been the football coach for 14 years. I was born, he says, in Natchez, Mississippi. I stood on the courthouse steps of Natchez with Charlie Evers. I was a teenage boy when Michael Schwerner and other boys were murdered. I've been in the struggle all along. In Mississippi, it was a fight for legal rights. This time, it's a struggle for survival. In certain ways, he said, it's harder now because in those days it was a clear enemy you had to face. A man in a hood was not a statistician. No one could persuade you that you were to blame. Now the choices seem like they are left to you, and if you make the wrong choice, you are made to understand, and you are to blame. Nighttime in this city is hot and smoky summer. There are dealers standing out on every street. Of the kids I see here, maybe 55% will graduate from school. Of that number, maybe 1 in 4 will go to college. How many will stay? That is the bigger question. The basic essentials are simply missing here. When we go to wealthier schools, I look at the faces of my boys. They don't say a lot. They have their faces to the windows looking out. I can't tell what they are thinking. I'm hoping they are saying this is something I will give my kids one day. Tall and trim, his black hair graying slightly, he is 45 years old. No, my wife and I don't live here. We live in a town called Ferguson, Missouri. I was born in the poverty and raised in poverty. I feel that I owe it to myself to live where they pick up the garbage. In the visitor's locker room, he shows me lockers with no locks. The weight room stinks of sweat and water rot. See, this ceiling is in danger of collapsing. See, this room don't have no heat in the winter. But we got to come here anyway. We wear our coats while working out. I tell the boys we got to get it done. Our fans don't know that we don't have heat. He tells me he arrives at school at 7:45 in the morning and leaves at 6 p.m., except in football season when he leaves at 8 p.m. This is my life. It isn't all I dreamed of, and I tell myself sometimes that I might have accomplished more. But growing up in poverty rules out some avenues. You do the best you can. All right. Wait for section 6. It's on the way.